Martin slammed his fists against the steering wheel, his pulse racing as the flashing lights of the police car chased him through the night. The sirens echoed in his ears, making it impossible to think. How had everything gone so wrong? How had a routine business meeting turned into a nightmare that could destroy his entire life? Just hours ago, Martin had been at the top of his game. As the CEO of a booming tech startup, he was widely admired for his leadership and foresight. He had always been careful, methodical, and trusted only a small circle of people in his professional life. But tonight, one wrong decision had led him down a path he could never have imagined. It started with the call. The voice on the other end of the line was deep and urgent.
Martin, we have a problem. We need to meet, tonight, no excuses.
It was Greg, Martin's business partner. For years, the two had worked together to build their company from scratch, trusting each other with their lives. Greg had always been the risk taker, the one who pushed for bold moves, while Martin kept them grounded with his caution. But lately, Greg had been acting strangely. Nervous, secretive. Martin felt a knot tighten in his stomach as he agreed to meet Greg at their usual spot, a desolate parking lot on the edge of town. It was an odd location for a business meeting, but Greg insisted it was the safest place to talk. The air was thick with tension as Martin arrived. Greg was pacing by his car, his face illuminated by the dim glow of a street lamp. As soon as Martin stepped out of his car, Greg rushed to him, grabbing his arm.
Listen to me, Martin. We've been hacked. Someone got into our accounts. They've got everything. The financials, the client lists, everything. We're finished unless we act fast.
Martin's mind raced.
How? We have some of the best security in the industry. How did they get through?
Greg's eyes darted around, wild with fear.
It was an inside job. Someone close to us. I don't know who, but I have a plan to fix this. We can't involve the police or the authorities. They'll shut us down. But I know a guy. He can erase everything, cover our tracks, but we need cash. Lots of it.
Martin felt like the ground had been ripped out from under him. Everything he had worked for was at risk. And now, Greg was suggesting an illegal cover-up. It went against everything Martin stood for, but the thought of losing his company, his reputation, his entire future, it was unbearable. Against his better judgment, Martin agreed. They drove together to the bank, withdrew a massive sum of cash, and headed toward a dingy warehouse where Greg's guy was supposed to meet them. The entire drive, Martin's heart pounded with a mix of dread and desperation. But when they arrived, things took a darker turn. The warehouse was eerily silent, and as they stepped inside, the door slammed shut behind them. From the shadows, three men emerged, armed and wearing masks. Greg's guy was nowhere to be seen.
Hand over the money.
One of the masked men growled, pointing his gun at Martin's chest. Martin's eyes widened in horror as he turned to Greg, realization dawning.
What is this? Greg, what's going on?
Greg's face twisted into an expression Martin had never seen before, a cold, calculating smirk.
Sorry, Martin, but business is business. I never intended to share the fortune with you. You were just in the way. Thanks for the cash, though.
Betrayal hit Martin like a punch to the gut. His own partner, the man he had trusted for years, had set him up. This wasn't about a hack. It was about greed. But Martin wasn't going down without a fight. As the gunman stepped closer, Martin made a split-second decision. He grabbed a metal pipe from the floor and swung with all his might, knocking the gun from the man's hand. Chaos erupted as Martin fought desperately for his life, adrenaline and anger surging through him. In the scuffle, one of the masked men fired his gun. A loud bang echoed through the warehouse, followed by a stunned silence. Greg lay on the ground, clutching his stomach, blood pooling around him. The masked men fled, leaving Martin standing over his dying partner. Greg's eyes were wide with fear, the smirk long gone.
Help me, Martin.
He gasped, his voice barely a whisper. Martin knelt beside him, his mind spinning. He could call an ambulance, try to save the man who had just betrayed him. Or he could walk away, leave Greg to the fate he had chosen. For a moment, Martin hesitated. But then he remembered everything. The lies, the betrayal, the greed. And he made his choice. As Martin walked out of the warehouse, leaving Greg behind, he felt a strange sense of clarity. Trust was a fragile thing, easily shattered. He had learned the hard way that even those closest to you could turn out to be your worst enemy. In the end, it wasn't the hackers or the masked men who had destroyed his business. It was greed, disguised as loyalty. The police found Martin hours later, sitting in his car by the side of the road. He confessed everything, knowing that his life as he knew it was over. But as he was led away in handcuffs, he felt oddly at peace. The price of trust, he realized, was often far higher than you could ever imagine. In life, the people we trust can sometimes betray us when we least expect it. Greed and deception can come from those closest to us, and the consequences can be devastating. But there's a lesson to be learned here. Trust wisely, and never let desperation drive you to make choices that go against your values. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more gripping stories and life lessons that will make you think twice about the choices you make.